Hi everyone, it's me Lauren, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here then welcome. So today I have another Halloween-y type video for you, and in this one I'm going to reveal the 10 episodes of old-time radio horror that I personally think are underrated. If you search for the best episodes of OTR, you're going to get a lot of the same results. Sorry Wrong Number, The Hitchhiker, The Thing on the Floorboard, and they are classics for a reason, but I think a lot of great episodes can get left behind, and sometimes you have to really dig deep to find some gems. So these are some episodes that you might not have heard of, and of course scariness is subjective, so these are the ones that are most frightening to me. And same as in my last video, these are in no particular order, and I'm sorry if I look down a lot, my laptop's here with my notes. So let's get to it. The first one on my list is an episode called Behind the Locked Door, and it's from a show called The Mysterious Traveller. The Mysterious Traveller was one of those radio shows that did a little bit of everything. Crime, sci-fi, suspense, fantasy. And in this episode, an archaeology student tells his girlfriend about the time he and his friend go to an old abandoned cave to explore it and try and find some ancient artifacts. They find something alright. I was drawn into this one right away, and I listened to it with the lights out, and I really wish I hadn't. Of course, like in my last video, I'm going to try not to give anything away, no spoilers. That was a car. Okay. Next on the list is A Sound of Thunder from the Bradbury 13 show, and it's of course by Ray Bradbury. This is set in the future, way in the future, and a group of hunters time travel back in order to hunt and kill a dinosaur. And of course, as with all time travel stories, they have to be careful not to do anything that may alter the future. And since I don't want to give anything away, all I will say about this one is the sound design is absolutely fantastic. Number 3 on my list is Bells from the show Suspense. Suspense ran for over 20 years, so there's no shortage of great episodes, but I think Bells tends to get forgotten a lot, which is a shame because it is really, really good. In this episode, a couple move into their dream home. It's in a great location, the rent is very, very low. It almost seems too good to be true, so of course it is. It starts with the telephone ringing constantly, and it just builds and builds from there. Number 4 is The Thing in the Window, also by Suspense. In this episode, a man is living in an apartment, and one day he looks across to the other apartment across the street and he can see a dead body in the window, but nobody else can see it. This episode is really tensed, really well paced, and on a side note, I love that pretty much all of these had the old radio commercials still in them, and I really feel like it helps immerse you into that era. Number 5 is Revolt of the Worms from Lights Out. I'm going to quote the official synopsis I found online because they sum it up better than I ever could. An experiment backfires as a man and his assistant use human hormones and worms to make roses grow faster. All they can do is sit and wait for the floors to lift and the walls to crash. I mentioned in my other video that Lights Out have some of the best sound effects I've ever heard in radio, and they've really proved that here. I felt so uncomfortable listening to this one. Number 6 is Tangle Foot by Quiet Please. A man wants a pet fly, but he doesn't want a regular sized fly. He wants a big one. But he doesn't stop to think of the damage a huge fly can do, or what they might eat. Willis Cooper created both Lights Out and Quiet Please, but as Lights Out made great use of sound effects, Quiet Please often didn't. They preferred to set the mood with sparse music. However, when the show used sound effects, they really went for it, such as in this episode. If you don't like insects, I would maybe give this one a miss. Number 7 is Playing God by Fear on 4. I realise I'm a little over the line of old time radio when it comes to this, as this show came out in the 80s and the golden age of radio was set to end in the late 50s, perhaps early 60s if you want to push it. But for me, this episode is too good not to mention. Fear on 4 was originally called Appointment with Fear and was broadcast in the 1940s, and it was revived briefly in the 80s. And this episode is about a company that finds homeless people and offers them money to take part in a series of tests. Of course, that is not the real reason why they want them there. Number 8 is The Ravine by Bradbury 13. A serial killer called the Lonely One is terrorizing a small town, but a woman called Lavinia isn't going to let that stop her from having fun. After going to the movies with friends, she then has to walk through the ravine alone at night. This story is skin-crawlingly creepy, and the tension ramps up and up and up until you feel like you can't take it anymore. Number 9 is The Wendigo from Theatre 1030. Not much is known about this show except that it seems to have aired in the late 60s, and I'm assuming based on the title it's aired at 10:30 at night. In this episode, 2 men are exploring the northern wilderness with their tour guide, and later on in the night the guide disappears. And you can probably guess from the title what they're up against. Once again, some really great and really creepy sound effects are in this one. And last but not least, number 10 is a show called the Poria Plague. This is not from any radio series, this is a one-off. Not much is known about it, except it appears to have come out in the early 70s, and not enough people have heard it, and it is so good. It's about Radio DJ. He's just doing his job, reading local news items, playing stories, just living his best life basically. And he receives a news bulletin. A power blackout has affected most of the city. Also, dozens of people are being hospitalized from a strange unknown disease that quickly spreads. What I love about this one is that it's so realistic, like every actor puts in 110%. It's very reminiscent of War of the Worlds, and more than likely it was inspired by it. If it wasn't, I'll eat my hat. So that was my personal top 10 underrated episodes of old time radio horror. I hope that you will check some of these out, and I hope that you like them. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, horror and what you find scary are subjective, but if you do check these out, I really hope you enjoy listening to them. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!